Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Redmen TV and your latest episode of Oppo Preview. My name is Dan Club. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by James from AFTV. James, first off, how are you? You okay?
Just about. No, thank you for having me, man. Yeah, big fan of Redmen TV, the work you do. So big thanks for inviting me on. And yeah, I mean, look, it's the nature of the time of the game, but it's coming straight after PSG. The season, well, it's done for us really. Although weirdly, there's a degree of importance on these games because of how bad we've been in the league. Now there's this pressure to at least cement second place and or something, top four finish. I mean, I can't believe we've been talking about this. But that's where we are. So it's been a tough season. I know we'll get into it. But otherwise, I am fine. I am good. There's more things to life than football, and yeah, I'm all good. So thanks for asking me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thanks, mate. I'm not going to gloat too much, although getting the
I wouldn't
smart.
blame you, man. I wouldn't
No,
blame
no,
you,
no.
Arsenal fans. I hear it. I wouldn't blame you.
No, it's one of them. Yeah, it is. It's a nice conversation we're about to have, but it's also, yeah, it's got that tinge of us having the campaign that we've had, and then you off the back of what happened in midweek, and then coming to Anfield. That is the elephant in the room, actually. So I'll
Mm.
begin there if you don't mind. I'll get it out of the way straight
Yeah.
off the bat. PSG exit in the Champions League, it's another case of what might have been in that competition, likewise in the Premier League as well. To go from that disappointment, followed by Liverpool being crowned recently Premier League champions, or confirmed as Premier League champions, I should say, straight to watching your team give a guard of honour at Anfield, like as brutal as all that is, that's the world we're living in. Like, how does that feel, I guess?
Yeah, really good. Um, yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I was about to use stronger words, but then I remembered I'm not on my own channel. I mean, yeah, it's tough because I think the reason it's so tough is I have seen Arsenal sides that weren't good, that I had no expectations for, that would get battered away every single big game, sometimes even at home in big games would get battered, who would just they never looked competitive and they never we didn't have players that could match up to any of our rivals. And when you're in that state as a fan, you do feel somewhat apathetic. And you go, yeah, I'm annoyed. Yes, I'm angry. Yes, I'm disappointed. But my expectations are as low as they come with this team. The expectations are there, even with the campaign we've been having. There was an expectation or a feeling or a belief that something could happen in the Champions League. I've seen worse teams win it. I mean, call me crazy. I mean, I have.
We won it,
And
sorry, in 2005. I would suggest, albeit with Steven Gerrard and Xabi Alonso, some quality players, I don't think our team was as well equipped to win the Champions League as yours is right now, personally.
well, I mean, that's interesting. And but you look at the name, it says Steven Gerrard. That's you just mentioned one of the greatest, if not the greatest midfielder to play in this country. And Arsenal don't have that. We've got some very, very, very good players. And like I said, for the first time, we've got players that we can put up against others. But I've gone on this big old tangent to say when the expectation's there and the hope and the genuine belief is there that this is a team that can go do something, and for a third season in a row they don't deliver, it's a really difficult one to stomach. And at least in previous years, we've been able to say we've pushed or given a go or whatever. We're going to give you guys a guard of honor, which you deserve, and the classy thing to do is to absolutely do it. I've no doubt Arsenal will do it, but to have not made you earn it, you earned it in a million other ways, but we didn't make that happen. And that's really disappointing.
Just on that, then, do you think my next question was really going to be sort of like you're clearly competitive in lots of ways right now in every single game, more or less. Do you
Yeah.
think there has been sort of trajectory wise, you've been making improvements year on year since Arteta took over, it feels like. Do you think you've done that again this time, or do you think this has been somewhat of a backward step? And we'll get into the
No.
reasons as to why in a moment, but just sort of if you stand back from it and remove yourself from the situation, do you think this has been standing still or even, like I say, going a little bit backwards?
I'm a big believer in football. If you stand still, you've gone backwards. So the point is, I don't think we've gone forwards this season. And um, it's not to any Arsenal fans watching this. It's not to say the injuries haven't played a part. Of course they have. Not to say we haven't been on the end of the odd bad decision and that the odd maybe game-changing moment, whether it be a particular injury in a particular moment. I reflect on Gabriel going off against you guys when we were 2-1 up. I reflect on a Declan Rice red card, a Trossard red card when we were kind of leading games against Brighton and Man City. Yes, all that, sure. But at no point did we ever look as good as Liverpool. And at no point did we ever look like we'd evolved tactically or like we'd really grabbed hold of the season in some kind of way, like we at least had done in two of the previous years. So for me, it's been a regression. If not fundamentally, because I haven't been entertained once by Arsenal as much as I have been in the previous years. And that's a part of it. How much you entertain, how much do they get you off your feet? So I think we've gone backwards, man. Being really kind of raw and honest about it. I think we have. It's not to say that I think everything is linear. We can't go forwards again. I think everyone's journey is different. I never thought your title challenge last season under Jurgen Klopp would end the way it did, only for Arne Slot to nail it the year. That is such a weird trajectory, but it's football, and what a wonderful story for Liverpool. So I think we need to take inspiration from that. But no, it's been a season of regression.
Yeah, it's interesting that. And you're right on the slot point because it was all well and good now with the benefit of hindsight and the season going the way it has. We can poke fun at all the pundits who had us in around third and some not even in the top four. But realistically and honestly, not one of us in this building suggested we were going to win the Premier League title because it felt like, and you will have heard this a million times in recent weeks, it felt like if Man City did drop off even slightly, never mind seismically like they have, you were the one waiting to take that phone. And yeah, it hasn't happened. I'm rubbing it in now. I apologize. I said
that's not rubbing it in. That's the fact. You know, we finished second 2 years in a row. We spent more money than you in the summer. You had a brand new manager. Of course, the expectation was Arsenal going to kick on. I think Arne Slot's a younger manager in terms of years in management than Arteta. I think, is that right? I might. When did he start?
Well, he did. He did. He's at Alkmaar, and he had a club before that who completely slipped my mind now.
Okay,
and obviously
fine.
did a couple of years of finals. So I think he will have a few more years' experience under his belt personally.
Okay, right. My bad. If I got that wrong. That maybe that's one of those Twitter stats I've picked up and just run with. But
Campbell, I've just remembered the team name. Sorry, Campbell, who were lower again in Dutch football. Yeah, so he had 3 jobs prior, all of which I think were 2, maybe 3 years maximum. So he might have accrued around 8 or 9 years of experience.
All right, in that case, my bad. I'll retract that one. But still, the expectation, the feeling was, here we go. Arsenal are going to capitalise when that moment comes. And you know what? It's also a case of we shouldn't have needed to capitalise. What I don't like, I'm not just saying this on a Liverpool channel. Liverpool didn't just capitalise on City not being good. But pre-Chelsea on a 94-point pace, you could still hit 91 points. Liverpool didn't just go, we'll just pick that one up because City haven't done it. Liverpool still got to a level, and Arsenal didn't. And nowhere near even the levels that we've shown the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You touched on some of the reasons and maybe some of the problems Arsenal have encountered that have meant you fell short once again, both in Europe and of course domestically. How do you divvy that up, if you like? Because a lot of people will look at the injuries and people might run until they can't run anymore with the injury reason. A lot more people will look at the centre forward. Is tactics been involved as well? Has it been a bit of luck, a bit of PGMOL conspiracy stuff going on along the way as well, tongue in cheek, granted. But what is it? Why is it in your mind that you have not quite lived up to what was your expectation?
I think talking about a 38 game league season, then 2 domestic cups and a Champions League, it's going to be so many things. Because I don't think anyone could watch the PSG second leg in particular and think Arteta's out of his depth. I think he went toe to toe with Enrique, and I think yes, we lost 3-1, and I think PSG with a better side deserved to go through. But I don't think for one second we looked like we didn't belong on that stage. So I think Arteta comes out with some credit, but ultimately you can point to lots of things, and it just kind of leads back to, I'm going to call it management, whether it's Arteta, whether it's his coaching, whether it's the board, whether it's the scouting department, recruitment department, the ownership, whoever it is, it trickles back to them. So what are some of the reasons you said there? Striker. Okay, can you expect Mikel Arteta to win a title and a Champions League with Mikel Merino up front? Probably not. Can you expect Mikel Arteta to have added better than Kai Havertz, Leandro Trossard, Martinelli, and Gabby Jesus? over the 5 years he's been manager? Absolutely, you can. Can you talk about the football's been a bit stale this season? It's been a bit pragmatic because maybe the injuries of players who got sure. But then last season, no, actually last year we were quite good. But okay, earlier this season we had our players fit. There still wasn't like a real upturn in kind of the football we were playing. Injuries. Well, so Gabriel Magalhaes, Kai Havertz, and Bukayo Saka, probably our three most played outfield players, all had hamstring surgery. One of them got injured in Dubai doing a pressing drill. The other, I mean, all of them, you watch them on the pitch. This Arsenal team, one thing I can't fault them for is their work ethic. I mean, the amount of running we do is unbelievable, but it always felt a touch unsustainable with the size of squad we had and the minutes that others were playing. Lo and behold, they will have hamstring surgery, they're all injured. So is that just luck or does that trace back? Now, listen, I hate the PGMOL. You might not find anyone who is more critical of refereeing. I still, to this day, think the Rice and Trossard red cards are an absolute disgrace. I don't care, the rules and this, new thing they were trying to implement. I think it was nonsense. I think it ruined games, and maybe that denied us 4 points. Great. How much closer does that get us to you? What would that make us 12 points behind? Do you know what I mean? It's just, yes, there's other things, but there's so much of it that falls at our own doorstep that we need to look at before we worry about everything else.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that's a really, sensible way of looking at it, to be honest with you.
I think but also I think it's the only way because
yeah.
what do we do? Do we go into next season doing the exact same things? I'm so sorry that you got a ranty Arsenal fan.
No, go for it. This is what I got you on for.
This is where we are, right? What do we do? Do we go into next season, do the exact same things and go, well, hopefully we're a bit more lucky with injuries in the PGMOL and refereeing? No, because that wasn't enough. Liverpool were on the end of their own fair share of bad decisions at times. The odd game with a red card. But I tell you what, when Andy Robertson got sent off against Fulham, people were still saying they couldn't believe he didn't win the game. That's what there's got to be an attitude and a mentality shift and a tactical shift. And there's got to be, it's so easy to say we've got to learn from the Premier League winners, but it's the way you've won it. We need to look and learn from that. Mo Salah, I'm so grateful he came out with this quote. The minute you won the title, you beat Tottenham. Mo Salah came out and said, I said to Arne Slot, and you can verify, tell me if this quote was right or wrong, because it might be one of those fake quotes did the run, but I'm pretty sure it's a real one. He said, I said to Arne Slot, basically, don't rely on me massively defensively, but I will give you everything in terms of output. There's no Arsenal player that's given that type of license, and the management of the players in terms of the intensity and how and when they give the most, we need to learn from that.
Yeah, he did say that. Absolutely said that. Yeah, because it was quite evident from watching him play football that was the case. He gets back. Clear. Yeah, he gets back if he really feels like he has to put in a shift in certain games potentially. He's just been named Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year, by the way, before we started chatting. So yeah, it kind of speaks for itself as well.
Exactly.
You've touched on Arteta once or twice there as you were talking. He's come out and he's played the blame game a little bit, which I kind of think is what you were getting at towards the end. Because what good is that ultimately? You might need to take a closer look at yourselves and where you can improve and where you can get better as a squad, as a manager as well. He said some stuff recently, James, is how I'm going to phrase this. Came out and said you're the best in Europe, spoke about the points tally accrued and what have you. What do you make of all that? I'm not pointing fun at Mikel Arteta because I think he's a very good manager, clearly a very good coach who's got Arsenal miles ahead of where they were when he picked them up.
Yeah.
But is he detracting from his own work? Is he detracting from his own squad? Is he looking for excuses? I can't quite, and you're far more in this sphere than I am, clearly. I can't quite work out what he's doing at the end of this season.
I think it's a great point. Well, actually, before I answer, can I flip that on you quickly and ask? I'm really curious from a rival's perspective. What do you think of Mikel Arteta? What's the general feeling amongst Liverpool fans and rivals maybe about Mikel Arteta?
Again, I reiterate what I said a moment ago. I think he's a really impressive young coach. And it's hard now, as we sit here, to look at it and say, was Pep Guardiola's winning mentality, is that what made him stood out from Arteta? Is Arteta the nearly man? And that's just, again, born out of what we've witnessed. Always the bridesmaid, all that kind of thing. Does he have that? Because his career was a very good one, clearly, but it wasn't the elite, win everything all the time. Is he that as a coach again? I'm not quite sure, is he the guy to get you over the line? And again, that's purely based on what we've witnessed. But I do think, generally, he speaks well. I mean, generally, he handled himself quite well. But I just think, again, these past few days and weeks, it's just started to turn a little bit odd. And I put... my reason for that would be he's diverting any potential pressure away from himself by backing up his own importance and backing up his own job, basically. But yeah, what have you made of it?
Yeah. That this is the most offensive I've ever seen him.
Mm,
And I think I'm glad you said that generally he speaks well, because I think more often than not, the message he's trying to get across is quite a good one. But this season, there's been a massive shift away from that. And I don't know. There's a bit of a paradox here in that I don't know if paradox is the word, but I'm using it in that um, managers and players are beyond media trained, yet sometimes feel so out of touch. It's really strange. We're in this kind of like they are so to within an inch of their life told what to say, what not to say, yet so often the message feels wrong. And the ones that stand out for me are always the raw and honest ones. You see, he's a Tottenham player, so I don't like him. But I don't know if you caught what James Maddison said ahead of their Europa League semi-final ties, where he basically said it hurts us players too. And he spoke really raw. And he actually, you could tell he didn't say everything the way he necessarily wanted to say it, but he caught himself and he went, look, I don't know if I've spoken wrong there, but what I'm trying to say is, and I think that have resonated with so many fans who have been on James Maddison, who haven't been that impressed with his performances, and Tottenham languishing in 16th, 17th, or whatever it is. But I think in that moment, it was kind of a degree of raw you need.
mm.
And I can't believe I hate that I'm praising Tottenham, but Andrew Postecoglou with some quotes post their semi-final win. I think sometimes, and the reason I use them as an example is A, we hate them, but B, they've had a shambolic campaign, but in kind of two key moments, they connected with their fans. And I think post PSG, maybe it's easier to do ahead of a big tie and after a big win. But I think for Arteta and Arsenal post PSG, there was a big moment to kind of send a message. And I think the cameras are on you. You've just been knocked out of the Champions League. You are as much speaking for yourself and the players as you are for the club and directing to the fans. And you're also you're both speaking to the fans and for the fans. And I thought his message was so wrong. We haven't been the best team in Europe. I think we were worthy semi-finalists. I think we were maybe the fourth best in terms of how we navigated the Champions League. But come on, the other three were leagues ahead of us, and let's not get started on Liverpool too. I don't think you can say, well, the PSG bench said, well, we deserve to go through. I don't believe you. But okay, maybe someone was gracious in defeat. Keep it to yourself. That's a message for the players. Boys, they really rate us and you need to believe in yourselves more. But to the fans, to everyone else, the message is Arsenal Football Club have never won this competition. We've just been knocked out and we're gutted. We're proud that in our first 2 years back, we've gone toe-to-toe with Bayern and Real Madrid and PSG and made a quarter in the semis. You can touch on positives, but the message should always be of disappointment and of going again. And actually, the message was, Donnarumma, poor us. Turkish made a great point on Forever Arsenal podcast we do. You could talk about Donnarumma. David Raya saved the penalty. We should have been out of it sooner than we were. So, and made big saves across the tie. So his messaging has been, I think it's a big part, and not just the results and the way the season's gone. The messaging is starting to test fans' patience, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine it would do because again, I do think generally speaking, he handles everything really, really well and sort of, yeah, is on message more often than
Yeah.
not. But it just feels like he's deviated away from that in recent times. I just wondered what that was, and I'll come on to it.
Pressure.
Do you think it is pressure? And he
Yeah.
is trying to deflect somewhat and trying to avoid that?
Yeah, I think it is. Mikel Arteta, if you look at the way he sets his football team, I think it sometimes gives you an insight into the way he thinks. I think he prepares for every single possibility. In fact, Kieran Tierney's kind of said, he predicts what's going to happen on a football pitch, Mikel. I believe he understands football to a level we'll never understand. But if you apply that to maybe his general thinking, don't know the bloke personally, obviously, but I wonder whether this is the first time he himself is looking at his position and looking at every possibility and going, hold on, you can't say, well, who's out there? That was one of the things, apart from the performances we had from Arsenal, you could fall back on, well, who else is there? The other three semi-finalists, the coaches, none of them have managed in the Premier League before. Hansi Flick, Simone Inzaghi, and Luis Enrique. Arsenal are a very attractive job right now. There's money there. There's good, exciting young players. There's a momentum. There's Champions League football. And this is the first time where we haven't seen progression, and we've touched on that. So I think it's Mikel Arteta for the first time going, whoa, I'm still, I'm still the guy. And I think there's been a bit of trepidation in his kind of words for the first time. Do you know what? Sometimes you've got to get defensive. Hell, I'm in the comment section of YouTube videos, sometimes defending my own bloody videos I upload. Sometimes you've got to do it, but I think you've got to pick your moments. And I don't think that was quite the right moment post PSG. But is that the feeling you're getting, that
Exactly
for the
that.
first time, this is like a manager who's
Yeah.
fretting about his position?
Yeah, and he's almost trying to get ahead of it before it becomes a conversation. That's because,
Right.
again, the points tally stuff come out, and whether people believe it or not, just saying the words, we were the best team in Europe, that's
Yeah.
then out into the ether. So if there was
Yeah.
somebody questioning his job or questioning whether he was the guy to take you forward and actually to get you over the line, that exists now. So
Yeah.
it's and I do think that's exactly how I had it, but I'm not in a place really to say that because I'm not privy to everything, but you are.
I'm laughing because I've thought of a terrible analogy, so I'll get to it. But it's like, yes, there would have been people questioning his job post PSG in the season, everything, but I don't think that was the forefront of people's minds. I don't think, and nor do I think there was a lot of criticism like headed for Mikel for the way we played that second leg. I actually think there would have been disappointment, but a bit of appreciation for the work. The words post match almost did more damage, and I'm gonna. I said I've got a terrible analogy, and forgive me, maybe this is the platform for it, but hear me out. It's like if you're about to go on a night out that your girlfriend's not coming on, and you say, "I promise I won't cheat on you." She goes, "Okay." No, no, but I promise. No, I promise I won't. She's like, "That's fine. I didn't think you were going to. Why do you keep bringing this up?" No, just so you know, I'm definitely. It's like, okay, but I wasn't thinking about. It. It's a bit like that. Like
Yeah, you're right.
you've kind of just like created something that wasn't really there in this kind of like almost desperation in your quotes. Anyway, silly analogy. It's a Friday. I'm having a bit of a laugh with it. But
No, it's fair.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
feels a little bit like seeds were planted that didn't kind of need to be. And yes, a lot of the conversation would have been had regardless. But I don't think it would have been. I wouldn't have been feeling this disappointed with Arteta post match had it not been for some of the stuff he'd said. That's part
Yeah.
of it.
That's really interesting. That, and just finally on that, before we do look ahead to the weekend and beyond, actually, in many cases, listen, for what it's worth, I'm going to say what I'm about to say before I get to the question. I don't think he should be under pressure for his job. Absolutely not. It's a non-starter for
Not
me.
right now. I agree.
I assume you think the same, and the general fan base thinks the same.
Oh, but it's being tested. It's being tested. I think you can live in this limbo of you don't think he deserves to lose his job. He deserves another year, but you're also simultaneously not convinced he's the guy to get you over the line. And that's a very hard thing to argue. That's kind of where I am. So the people who demand more are looking at me going, well, why shouldn't he be sacked if you don't think he can get us over the line? And I go, well, because I don't know, because he's done so well up till now that I think he deserves another year to see if he can go a level above, and hopefully Andrea Berta helps with that. I also don't think the club have. I think they've backed him, but I think it's a bit overblown how much he's been backed. I think there's this feeling of he's been given everything he wants, and I don't really agree with that. But I also think for some of the gaping holes we have in our squad, he's had enough to have addressed that. So sorry to jump in there, but there is this kind of limbo a little bit with Arsenal fans that it's being tested more for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. And you just mentioned there, Andrea Burt, obviously the new sporting director, I assume his position is.
Yeah.
You mentioned the backing of it. Let's quickly touch on the summer. What needs to be done? I guess there's one glaringly obvious position that needs something to happen in it. But outside of that, you're expecting a big summer. You're expecting lots of ins and outs.
Do you know what? I think this is a fascinating summer for both clubs, isn't it?
Yes.
This is a really interesting one. I imagine winning the Premier League has poured a bit of cold water on the pressure for this summer, but it's still a big one for Liverpool.
Hmm.
Because you can kind of enjoy the title parade and everything and just have a great summer and, you got the trophy in the bag. But Trent's off. There's, there's depth needed for Liverpool. I think you've got match winning quality, and I think you've got box efficiency quality. The Alissons, the Van Dijks, the Canates, the Salahs, the Diaz's, although maybe Diaz not so much at the moment. I think you've got that, and actually, you guys are trying to add the extra, the fluff, the what is going. Yeah, there's other areas to address with quality. I understand, but you just want the title. Yeah, clearly there's quality through your team, but it's also about maybe competing on multiple fronts and going the distance in other areas and then molding this even more into the slot vision for a longer term thing. Whereas Arsenal, I think, have done the longer term building. I think it's molded in Arteta's way. I think we've got, Mikel Merino's a good squad player. Martinelli and Trossard are good squad players. If Timber's not starting, it's Ben White, Tomiyasu to come back. We've kind of got the fluff. People say we don't have a big squad depth. No, we do. Only the squad depth players are starting for us. That's the problem. What we need is to add match winning quality, because Liverpool have been tremendous, but there have been moments where Mo Salah just said, okay, all right, we'll need this game. Now, are we finding Mo Salah? No, because this is the best right winger to have played in the Premier League. But I just saw Eze just launch one into the roof of the net in the FA Cup semi-final against Aston Villa. There's match winning quality out there. There are top players who can step up a level, get to world class. That's what Arsenal are looking for. That's very hard to do in this window, but because it's been so unaddressed in previous windows, the pressure is ramped up massively. This is when, another shit analogy, you haven't done your washing for weeks, and then you look at that mountain. There's no way, you can't not do it. It's got to get done. And that is just where we are. I'm full of great analogies. If you want an analogy show on Redmen TV, here I am. But it is just, that's kind of where we are with it. And it's really, really important work this summer. It's a big one for Andrea Berta. I kind of feel a bit sorry for him. It's a big one.
He's walked into some job, some in tray, and I think you're right about it. So Liverpool definitely have got a big summer on the horizon. I'm already braced fully for that, in and out the door, because whilst we sit here Premier League champions, there's so much work to be done still, adding to the squad, giving Arne Slot more options, because one of the major criticisms, if there are any, of Arne Slot has been his reluctance to use the depth of the squad. And I just think that's because he only trusts 13, maximum 14 players, which, as you touched upon, has meant that we fell short in multiple competitions. We wanted to still be in the Champions League conversation a fortnight ago, minimum. We wanted to still be in the FA Cup. Obviously, the Carabao Cup final was a huge disappointment. So that's where we lie. But I think, more importantly than all of that, similar to yourselves, the centre forward. And the centre forward market, because Darwin Núñez is gone, Maitland's on the wall there. Diogo Jota, not quite convinced anymore. We need one. You need one. Man United might argue they need one. Chelsea might be in the market for one as well. Who knows what happens with Alexander Isak? So Newcastle might need one. That's going to be... That, to me, James, feels like everyone wants one. There aren't loads out there. It's going to be a bit of a race to the top when it comes to signing that guy.
Who do Liverpool want? Because I've seen the Isak links, but if we live, by the way, I don't think it's a complete guarantee Isak stays, but I think he will. But let's assume he's out of reach financially and in terms of availability for Arsenal and Liverpool. Who do you guys want? Because the debate is rife amongst Arsenal fans.
I can imagine. Probably the next guy doesn't necessarily jump off the page. I think Julian Alvarez jumps off the page of Atletico, obviously. It's slightly different. Well, there's murmurings. It's slightly different in terms of profile, obviously. I think he'd be more your versatile, can play across the front line options. He would be a perfect Diogo Jota replacement if that was required, and a wonderful footballer as well. But Hugo Ekitike is probably the next one, I would say, that we're looking at. But it's a good player, but it's some drop from Isak to Ekitike in terms of finished article, ready to go, plug and play. But what are you, Seshko? Would you say, is that the guy? Gyökeres is there or thereabouts?
Honestly, you asked me on a Friday, ask me on a Tuesday, I'll give you a different answer. I have no idea. I have no idea. No. I can't argue with Gyökeres' numbers. I just can't. I mean, his numbers are unbelievable. There's got to be something there. But as people have pointed out, Darwin Núñez came from Portuguese football and it struggled to translate, but that could be one player. We can use loads of examples of loads of players across loads of leagues. So Gyökeres' numbers they're stupidly good. They're unbelievably good. So I can't quite ignore that. Then you've got the complete other side, which is Sesko. Raw numbers are good, but they're not incredible. But the talent is evident. You look at him, you go, wow, there's a real player there. That goal he scored against Bayern the other day, oh my word. And then in the middle sits an Ollie Watkins, where I've seen what he's done in the Premier League. His numbers are good. The talent's evident. But he's the older of the three. Would you guys take Ollie Watkins at Liverpool?
I'll be honest, no. And that's not to say I don't like him, because I do. The age is a factor for me personally.
Are we not a bit harsh on that though? He's only 29. We should go to 33 comfortably, no?
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. He might be too reliant on getting about the pitch for that. Maybe you might get one or two good years out of him. Weirdly enough, there's been Harry Kane conversations happening, which I'm sure you'll adore around Liverpool. But having that ruthless is not very Liverpool at all. Neither will be in Ollie Watkins, by the way, which is kind of why I'm against it. We don't tend to sign players of that age profile at all. And ones that have been around, we are normally they're about to burst. They're about to explode. The numbers are about to go through the roof. We've seen it time and time again. Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, of course, in a different way. Diogo Jota himself was that. So, yeah, I would be amazed if we were even linked with Ollie Watkins personally. But again, at some point, all of these clubs that I mentioned earlier are going to have to land on a striker. It's going to be interesting to see who heads where.
Call call me crazy. I don't know why. Ollie Watkins actually feels quite Liverpool to me. I don't know why. I think because of his work rate, talent, goal scorer. Also, don't think he'd come for a crazy price, and also don't think he has to start. The one thing about Liverpool over the years is you have been doing it without a real recognised striker. So sometimes it's a Jota, a Diaz up there, or a Gakpo. Actually, maybe he's kind of that kind of guarantee of Premier League goals without being that kind of like what's the word? He's kind of some strikers feel quite project defining. If you brought them in, well, you got to play them. Um, so I hear everything you're saying because of the age and everything, but I weirdly think he's quite suited to you guys. But I agree. I don't think you'll go for him. With Arsenal, I don't know. But the market, listen, I think the left winger market's better. I think there are left wingers out there. And Liverpool may be tempted to go for that kind of player and go for that, kind of smaller, more nippy, flary front three type without the out and out nine.
Possibly, I do think the time has come. And if you look back at what Arne Slot did at a final, he had Santiago Jimenez as a number nine, as a real focal point. And I know it's different when you arrive at Liverpool and you've got Mo Salah because he scores all your goals ultimately. But still, I think Arne Slot, and I think the way we've played is still crying out for that centerpiece, that centre forward who can facilitate those around him, but also ultimately put the ball in the back of the net. And sometimes it's been quite evident that we've really missed that. And the lack of involvement in the game the Niners had has been quite stark, actually, in certain occasions. And that isn't to me because Arne Slot doesn't want to use them. It's because we haven't got the suitable one, really. Diogo Jota's been non-existent too often. Darwin Núñez misses too many big chances. Diaz has kind of been the halfway house in that. But Diaz isn't ideally suited either. So it's going to be a really fascinating one. But I do think what you said there in terms of buying another versatile, nippy, small attacker would be great. We need someone to supplement Salah, so maybe that. Although Jamie Frimpong could end up being that in a weird
Yeah.
way. But yeah, I do definitely think a number nine is essential.
Do you, what's the story with Jota? Do you think he goes this summer?
I think if there's suitable bids, I don't think Liverpool will be pushing to sell him, nor would Liverpool be hands off at all costs on Diogo Jota. I think if a Saudi bid was to arrive, for argument's sake, for 60, 70 million, maybe less, Liverpool will be open to that. Because, like I say, for a long time with Jota, and I know he's been Arsenal's worst enemy and nemesis forever since he arrived at Liverpool, pretty much. But still, for a long time, it was injuries just constantly stopping anything he could get going in terms of form, momentum, and rhythm. However, he's had injuries this year, and then when he has played, he's looked a shadow of his former self as well. So, like I say, I think if a bid was to arrive, Liverpool would definitely be open to hearing it this time around.
It's the most Arsenal thing of all time to get to late August, realize Jota hasn't moved and put in a bid. Honestly, it'd be the most Arsenal thing of all time.
Puts the ball in the back of the net. I cannot argue with that whatsoever.
Big
Often
bet.
at the
It's a
Emirates
very
as
big
well.
bet.
So.
I'm a big fan. 2 years
Yeah.
ago, I'd have been like, yes,
Yeah.
bring him in now.
That's the thing with Ollie Watkins. Sorry, just to interrupt there, because if he was 5 years younger, I'd have a conversation with you all day about him. I just don't see. And listen, that would be removed from the model and removed from what Liverpool normally do. But with Michael Edwards back in situ, with Julian Ward back in situ, it feels very unlike us to make that move.
Yeah,
And it
totally.
will move on to this weekend, which is why we actually started this conversation. Um, what do you want to see? Let's put it like that if
Well,
we can.
uh, wrap up the 90 as quickly as possible. We'll all shake hands on a draw and get on with our lives. So, awful thing to say. Do you know what? I'll tell you what, it's a terrible thing to say because, you also just got to enjoy football for what it is. You got to enjoy trips to Anfield. You got to enjoy football. You got to enjoy supporting your club. Um, the two teams, there's going to be a real temptation for Arsenal to be a bit lethargic in their play, for Liverpool to be hungover, which I wouldn't blame them for, and for it to just be a game that sort of peters out. But I think, fans are going, younger fans. I keep saying this on AFTV when we're previewing our league games. someone will have flown and bought tickets for that. Someone will have in November gone, that's a massive title race game, bought tickets, 10-hour flight, made their way. A young Liverpool, young Arsenal fan will be experiencing Anfield for the first time. So I think the players got to go out there, both sets of players, and put on a show. I think while there is a real temptation to feel sorry for ourselves on the pitch, the Arsenal players who've given a lot over the last few years, I think they've got to rally as a group, and Mikel Arteta too, and they've just got to say 3 more games, just play your hearts out, take your summer off, and we'll get help in the summer and we go again. But I think I just want to see them have a go, even if it means just winning at Anfield, so at least it doesn't feel so weird to do it. It's just like, because you'll put out a good 11. Arne Slot won't. He won't put the kids out. But,
No, I think we want to go out, and it's kind of in keeping what you're saying there. We want to go out on an Anfield high. It was a bit of a underwhelming performance at Chelsea last week, and I think we played Brighton following this away from home, and I'm kind of expecting that one to be a bit underwhelming as well, if I'm being honest. Though that's obviously looking quite a long way into the future. But I think in terms of the 2 Anfield games, certainly starting this Sunday with yourselves coming to town, I think we will want to go out strong, and we want to go out in a little bit of style. And I'll put that back on you as well, because there's 2 ways of looking at this for yourselves. There's finishing the season with a whimper and feeling sorry for yourselves and just limping over the line saying, well, that was disappointing again, wasn't it? Or you can send a bit of a message and put with a marker down and say, no, we've got over that already. Don't worry about those mentality giants, all that sort of stuff. It's very Jurgen Klopp-esque, actually, to be like, do you know what? That was shit, but look at us now. Look how strong we are. And I'm sure you'd rather see the latter.
well, my memory might be completely wrong here. I don't remember Manchester derbies that clearly, but I think City won the title in 2012. United got it back in 2013. They won it with a few games to go. And if I'm not mistaken, Man City, I think United had won it, but I might be wrong. Or at least they were so far clear. But Man City, I think, went to Old Trafford and I think battered them. Might be wrong. I think. Let us know in the comment section below, guys, if I'm wrong. But there was definitely a game where United run away with it and City just went, let's just remind you who we are. And if there's one thing I'll say, and I think I've been very complimentary of Liverpool this show, but the one thing I will say is you guys have been the better team, are the better team, and are rightfully champions. But I don't think when we are at our best and fully fit, there is as big a gulf in class between the two as the points tally suggests. And I think there's one thing Arsenal can do. And then we saw that in the head-to-head at the Emirates. I think there's one thing Arsenal can do. It's go out there and just impress. And just at least kind of guard of honor, because you deserve it. Give it our all for 90 minutes, shake hands, say, well done on the title. We're coming for you next year. That's I think, the message I want Arsenal to send. Because there's always this feeling after a season where you just go, I can't do it. I can't do it. The season's over. Football's never over. Because you literally get a month off before preseason starts. You don't even get that month off because the transfer stuff begins. And then the next thing you know, you're back in it. June is the only month no ball is kicked. And then in July, you're worrying about preseason. It comes around so quick. So I think that's the best Arsenal can do. It's at least leave Salah and Van Dijk and all them going, let's not forget that there are serious players on that pitch. And let's hope they don't strengthen too much. And let's enjoy our trophy parade and our title summer while we can, because they want to make a point. And that's, I think, the only message we can possibly send on Sunday.
I think that's absolutely it. I think that's nail on the head. And if the roles were reversed, that's exactly what I'd be saying from a Liverpool point of view as well. Make them know, make sure they're aware that next year we're coming for you.
Yeah.
And you cannot rest on your laurels.
Yeah,
James, it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
For your time. Let people know where they can find you, and of course the brilliance AFTV, the monster that is AFTV as well.
Thank you, man. That's really kind. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm on AFTV. I do the Forever Arsenal podcast previews and bits and bobs. You'll see me on the watch along, reacting to every heartbreak as it happens. But I've got my own channel, The Gooniverse, as well, where I kind of look at Arsenal from a more data-driven perspective and stuff. So yeah, just thank you so much for having me. Honestly, like, Redmen, I mean, started this, this space we're in, the work I do, very much driven by Redmen, Robbie, and, just setting the standard for a new kind of wave of media and giving fans the chance to be mainstream with kind of their thoughts, their analysis as well. And it's a privilege to do what we do. And it's a real privilege to be invited on the channel to talk all things in like a good way, because social media now is so absolutely filled to the brim with just toxicity and gotcha moments. And there's good conversations to have around our clubs. Two clubs that are historically, some of the biggest, and with Liverpool the biggest in the country. And it's kind of nice to there's a conversation around our journeys away from the Man Cities have been talked about for so long. So it's been good to have it out, and thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate the time, and I echo everything you just said, by the way. It's a privilege to work in what we do. And like you say, Robbie and the
Absolutely.
guys here are the reasons why we do it. Without getting too sentimental and too emotional, we'll wrap up there. And James, once again, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care. I'll see you soon.